there, it is high time I update my Becoming a Digital Nomad series. Or series, I only have one episode out yet. This will be the second one. And not much has happened since the last time in terms of what I've actively been doing, aside from trying to get in more jobs that are suitable for a digital nomad lifestyle. I haven't really started cleaning my house yet. There's been a lot of other stuff happening this week, so I haven't gotten around to that quite yet. But what I wanted to talk to you about today is the tiny house movement. Now, first of all, there is a tiny house movement. I think there's probably a lot of you that don't even know this. But it's a movement that is growing, and it's getting bigger and bigger all over the world. It has even come to Sweden mainly during the past couple of years or so. And what it is people are scaling down to live in smaller spaces. Just putting it very, very shortly. They will build like these tiny, almost cottage-like houses, and have just, it's basically, imagine doing a trailer home like the one I talked about last time. That's the type of sizing we're talking about here, which is also why I feel that these two things are connected to each other. Both if you want to build a trailer home or have a bus like I'm considering, it's pretty much the same thing. You are scaling down, you are bringing your entire living quarter and your house, your home, all your belongings into this very, very tiny space. And I know that for a lot of people this feels like it's absolutely impossible to do. It's not something they would even consider doing. Because we live in a society where we value size. The bigger the house, the more expensive we live, the better off we are. It's kind of a status kind of thing. But consider this. There's a lot of talk about the environment right now and what we can do to reduce our footprint in the world, and people have decided to stop flying and all these things. But I think one area that really should be talked about as well is how we are living. Because, like me, for instance, I live in a house, and I do love my house. It is 140 square meters, so it's fairly big, and I'm not sure how much that is in square feet, but it's a fairly large house. It's an old house, so there's a lot of small rooms, and I have a couple of businesses. So my house, and I also have 3 kids, which are more or less adults, all 3 of them. So we all take up quite a lot of space, and my businesses also take up quite a lot of space because I do need to keep stock for certain things and so on. But at the same time, a large portion of the time, it's only me and one of the kids that's at home at the same time. Also, I do have, like for instance, I do have my bedroom. This is a room I use only 8 hours approximately of each 24-hour cycle. The rest of the time, that room is not really in use. It just sits there. It holds my bed, it holds my clothes. That's it. It's a space I'm not really utilizing for anything other than sleeping in. My living room is more of an office work studio kind of thing. I also have an additional studio. It's right behind me here. And the kitchen I use when I'm in there doing dishes and doing foods, and the rest of the time it's just space. So when you start to think about it like that, and you consider that the majority of the space you are surrounding yourself with is space that you are only utilizing for a short amount of times during each 24-hour cycle. So what you're doing when you're transferring this into, or your lifestyle and your living quarters into a tiny house, is that you are, what's the word? You're condensing it, all of it, so that your kitchen and your living room is close to each other and they become more multi-purpose. A lot of people do make like lofts for their beds, and they can sleep up there, and it's okay to have that space, not utilizing it during the daytime. Or they do some kind of combination where your bed is also your sofa, and so on and so forth. So it's basically, you have the same things that you would in any other house, you just condense it into a smaller area, and you do a lot more multi-purpose. And you do, of course, you do have to scale down all your belongings. You can't have, like, you know, 4 wardrobes of clothes with you, and you know, all of that stuff. And you won't be able to have a dining room table, a kitchen table, and a coffee table. You have one table that will serve all functions. So that is pretty much what it is. And the point of it is also, of course, you can live cheaper this way, because even if you have your tiny house is set somewhere where you have to perhaps pay this quite a large amount of rent to be able to put it there, just the heating is nothing in comparison to a large house. You will save money from off of how much water you use, and you know, electricity, all those things. So it will turn out to be cheaper, of course. It will also be simpler, of course, because you have less stuff that you need to handle at all times, and you don't have the possibility to bring in a lot of stuff into your house all the time. What it also does is it doesn't require as much space to have this tiny house. I mean, I have a house on a garden. If this house was to disappear, and I would instead build just tiny houses in my own yard and my own garden, I could have at least 8 or 10 here. That would be like 8 or 10 people, or families even, that could live in the same space that I'm living in now in one house. And this is something I think we should consider more in the future, the possibility of having tiny houses. And like me, I live close to Uppsala in Sweden. We have a lot of students, and there's always a problem for them to find housing. And I think that if the municipality would build like these small villages of tiny houses, they could fit in a lot of students that way. Also, building environmentally sustainable tiny houses is not difficult either. Composting toilets, for one, is very common in this, which means you don't have to have plumbing for that. It would of course be beneficial to have some kind of shower, but then there's only grey water. It's fairly simple to build filters so that you can reuse the water, the grey waters from all the tiny houses, and you can reuse it for gardening or stuff like that. So I think it's fairly easy to make this environmentally sustainable as well. And I think it is something that we really need to consider for the future, to build housing like that for small families, even for large families. Why not? It's maybe you have like a couple of tiny houses next to each other. If you have a big family, you can do that as well. So I think that is it's something that we need to consider for the future. It's something that is gaining more and more popularity as well. A lot of people are doing this already. I'm also very interested in doing this myself. The problem in my case is that I do have my businesses as well, which means I do need to have some sort of space to, you know, to all my all the stuff that I need to storage and so on. So I guess I could have a tiny house to live in, and maybe I could have another tiny house that would function as a studio and a store. That's one solution. Or I would also, or instead I would build this bus that I am thinking about doing, and I would simply bring my home with me wherever I go, and could have some kind of store, pop-up store solution that I could use, so that I can actually bring everything with me. As for tiny houses themselves, there are a million different types of solutions and designs that you can utilize if you are interested in doing this yourself. And I will leave the links below for several of the YouTube channels that I am following and have been following for several years now on the topic, and in which you can see people's builds and how they are living and how they are managing their lives. And also, of course, there will be people who, like me, are deciding to build a bus or a trailer home or some kind that where they can actually bring their tiny house with them into the world wherever they are going. So I will leave those below if you're interested in looking more into that, and also looking into all the different solutions that you can use. We have, you know, solar panels are very, it's huge in this this context, both for tiny houses and for traveling and bringing your home with you. So electricity is not a problem. It's also environmentally sustainable, and solutions for composting toilets, solutions for showers, washing clothes and all that. Internets, I talked about that the last time, and I mentioned Cherie and what's his name, from Technomedia. They have a whole channel and a blog about all kinds of solutions for America. Granted, it is for America, but I'm sure we could have a lot of the same things in Europe as well. There should be the technical solutions for it in Europe as well. So I will leave some links below for you to do further research on your own. And yeah, that's it. I just wanted to pop on real quick and talk a little bit about the tiny house movement and what it is and why people are doing it, and that I am also considering that as an option for myself, if I can just figure out a place that I want to stay in for a longer period of time. Currently I'm in a place where I'm kind of just dying to get out there into the world and do my thing, and I don't know, go walkabout, I suppose, and to bring my businesses along with me. And I'm hoping I will be able to do that soon. I don't know, within the next couple of years, 2 or 3 years, hopefully. We'll see what happens. So yeah, that's it for me today. Check out the links below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I would love to have you as part of my, I don't know, tribe. I would love to have you follow along on this journey anyway. So please feel free to do that, and I will see you next time. Bye!